Even a man who is pure in heart and says his prayers by night may become a wolf when the wolfbane blooms and the moon is full and bright. Welcome to another edition of the Monster's Den. I am your host, Pete Pardo. Today is all about universal horror legend, the Wolfman. Cleverly portrayed over the course of many films by Lon Chaney Jr., the Wolfman became another of Universal's suite of monster icons alongside the Frankenstein monster, Dracula, the Mummy, the Hunchback, Phantom of the Opera, and Creature from the Black Lagoon. The Wolfman, a creature that will forever be immortalized by the full moon and the bite that spurs on lycanthropy, that turns an ordinary man into a savage beast. It's a classic tale. But Universal actually got their start with this whole werewolf thing just a few years before the title film right here, The Wolfman. We're actually talking about Werewolf of London, which was actually released in 1935 by Universal. Also featuring makeup effects by Jack Pierce, who of course would work with Boris Karloff from Frankenstein, Lon Chaney Jr. with the Wolfman, all the other, the Mummy, all the other horror classic characters he would work with throughout most of the run of the Universal films back in the 30s and 40s. But Werewolf of London technically is the first film in this series. Like I said, 1935, directed by Stuart Walker. This one stars, what do we got in this one? This is Henry Hull, who's actually a big-time stage actor. So the whole story here is that Henry Hull's character is a botanist, so he's off in Tibet looking for this very rare flower, which apparently only grows under the light of the moon in that section of the world. He actually finally does find the flower he's looking for one night, but someone is kind of skulking along in the shadows and attacks him. And he fights him off, but it's some kind of an animal, some kind of creature. He bites him, scares him off, but he's able to take back this flower, back to London, where he's there cultivating the plant, It's the rarest plant in the world, so it's a big deal. But then he gets introduced by another gentleman, who says that, we met briefly on your trip to Tibet a year ago or however long ago that was. And that actually, as it turns out, without giving too much away, he actually did encounter him in Tibet on that fateful night. So what winds up happening is, of course, Henry Hull's character winds up turning into a werewolf. But in this story, this flower, this plant, with the injection from part of the plant, you can actually fight off temporarily the whole transformation into a werewolf. Kind of strange, right? A little bit different from normal werewolf lore, but a pretty good film nonetheless. It's kind of creepy. Good performances by Hull. I kind of like the werewolf effects. He kind of looks more like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. And he's somewhat in charge of his faculties, although he's got kind of like a bloodlust, obviously. But, he'll turn into the werewolf. He'll put his hat and his cloak on. He'll go out into the night. So he's got kind of his wits about him. So it's a little bit different than the savagery we would see in the upcoming film. But still pretty good. Good kind of kickstart to the whole werewolf series by Universal. But like I said, it would be 6 years, before they would actually go forth with their big the Wolfman film. So this, it was released in 1941, directed and produced by George Wagner. Okay, this film stars Lon Chaney Jr. in the title role. Okay, fresh off of Man Made Monster, also fresh off of his star-breaking role in Of Mice and Men. Okay, Claude Rains, also starring in this film. He actually plays Lawrence Talbot, or Larry Talbot for short. That's Lon Chaney Jr.'s character. He plays the kind of long-lost son who's been off in America, working and building a career for himself. He comes back home, all right, to visit with his family. Claude Rains is his father, okay, Talbot Sr. Okay, you've also got Ralph Bellamy in this film, Patrick Knowles, Bela Lugosi plays Bela the Gypsy, okay. You've got Evelyn Ankers, Maria Ausenskaya, however she says her name, plays the gypsy woman, Maleva. Okay, so basically how this story goes, so you got Lawrence Talbot is back, he's hanging around with everybody in town, right? He goes to the local, the gypsies are doing this little carnival type of thing. As it turns out, Bela Lugosi's character is actually, he is the son of Maleva the gypsy woman. He actually has the curse of the werewolf, so that night, one night when they were, Larry Talbot and a bunch of friends are there. That particular night, Bela turns into the werewolf, and he goes after one of the women, okay? And Talbot goes to the rescue to try and fight off the werewolf, okay? He actually gets bitten, does fight off the werewolf, gets bitten, okay? So, of course, now the curse is on him. So then we see with the next rising of the full moon, okay, Mr. Talbot turns into the Wolfman, who we all know and love, right? And starts, killing people left and right before he finally realizes that, something's going on. I've been disappearing from my room every night. I get back and wake up in the morning, I got mud all over my feet. There's tracks leading up to my father's house. What is going on here, right? All of a sudden, that kind of the tortured soul that we know is Lawrence Talbot is born. Okay, great climax to this film as well. Got all the townspeople starting to kind of piece together things, where, how is Larry, Lawrence, is he tied into all this and whatnot. Then you got the big dramatic final scene, of course, and great acting, with Maleva, and the whole cast is just really, really good. So, and Claude Rains is just great as the father who, loves his son, but, what is wrong with my son, so to speak. And in the end, the final confrontation between father and son, okay, classic. Of course, the movie ends and you think everything's final, right? But nothing in Universal horror films is ever final, right? So, of course, we've got a slew of kind of sequels, none of which are necessarily like the Wolfman Part 2 or anything like that, right? But you've got, 2 years later, you've got Frankenstein meets the Wolfman. Okay, so now this is the first of the big, let's bring in all of our monsters together, or at least some of them, little by little. So Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, the first big kind of battle between two of Universal's horror characters. Okay, this one involves the Frankenstein monster. So this is the actual direct sequel. So I believe it's 4 years, takes place 4 years after the climax of the Wolfman. So in the beginning, then the opening sequence is fantastic. So you've got these two like thieves, right? Okay, I guess they're not really thieves. I guess they work at the cemetery. So they show up and they break into the Talbot crypt, okay, because they've heard that when Larry Talbot was buried, after he dies in the Wolfman, right, that he was buried with money on him and jewelry and all that kind of stuff. So, of course, these guys are poor. They're like, let's go break into the crypt and open up the coffin and let's go, steal whatever's in there. So, actually, of course, the night they decide to do this is the full moon, right? So they break into the crypt. They pull open the top of the coffin, right, the casket. And here you have what looks to be a perfectly preserved Lawrence Talbot 4 years later, sitting in the coffin with Wolfbane all covering him, right? So apparently that must have preserved him somehow. And then now that they've opened the coffin, they've taken the Wolfbane off and the full moon is rising up above. Guess who's back from the dead? So all of a sudden you see the hand move, grabs one of the guys, you know, who are trying to rip off the coffin, and you know what happens next, right? So great opening scene. Talbot actually winds up in a hospital in Cardiff, I believe. You know, obviously he has been rampaging around as the werewolf, as the Wolfman, killing people, whatever. He winds up in this hospital. He has actually a really bad head injury, which, amazingly enough, that's the head injury he suffered at the hands of his father's cane. Okay, well, it's actually his cane, with the silver wolf's head, okay, at the ending of the Wolfman, right? That's how he actually gets killed. So yeah, so he's you know, under the care there. He winds up keeps escaping. Eventually, you know, he's so tortured because he's like, you know, I know I have this curse. Why didn't you, you know, why am I back alive again? That sort of thing. I just want to die. So he actually goes and seeks out back where his father, where he grew up, right? And he goes and follows, tries to find the gypsy woman Maleva. Okay, who he eventually does track down. She looks just as surprised to see him, because she's like, I thought you were dead, so to speak. And he's like, you know, I can't die. I want to die. You have to help me. You have to help me. So she, of course, talks him into going and trying to find Victor Frankenstein. Okay, or actually the son of Victor Frankenstein, who, from, you know, Frankenstein films, you got the Son of Frankenstein, all right, you got the Ghost of Frankenstein, all these films here, and he's probably someone who can help you, someone who, you know, was involved in a lot of weird things, but he knows the secrets of life and death, so he should be able to help you. So they go all the way to Visaria, okay, and then everybody says, no, he's dead, you know, him and the monster killed in the ruins of the castle, and blah, 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 blah. So, of course, you know, Talbot is like, oh, that's my last chance, and they decide to leave, and of course he, as they're leaving on the horse and carriage, him and Maleva, of course, full moon rises, he turns into the Wolfman again. He winds up going back into Visaria, winds up killing some of the townspeople, chase after him. He's over by the old ruins of the Frankenstein castle, and he falls into, you know, a place where the ground is all very weak and what have you, and he falls into the frozen depths of Castle Frankenstein. And, of course, what do we see down there in the ice but the Frankenstein monster frozen in the ice? So, of course, he goes and unfreezes him. Okay, and in this film you have Bela Lugosi, originally Dracula, now playing the Frankenstein monster in this film. So they spark up kind of like a somewhat of a kinship, and Talbot is going to hopefully use the monster to help him find all the old notes and records of Baron Frankenstein in the ruins. Okay, long story short, they wind up bringing the monster back to full power. Townspeople know something's going on here, right? Madness ensues. One of the townspeople, you know, goes to blow up the dam, which is just above Castle Frankenstein. The climactic scene has the doctor who was caring for Talbot in Cardiff. He's there. He just gets the whole craze. Oh, we're going to revive the Frankenstein monster. We're going to revive the Frankenstein monster. Brings him back to full power. At the ending scene, Talbot turns into the Wolfman. The Frankenstein monster breaks, you know, loose. The two of them go at it. You got this nice fight to the finish in the end. Boom, the dam breaks. The waters come down, levels the castle completely, along with the monster and the Wolfman. Or so we thought, right? Because not long after that, we're actually going to move ahead to 1944, so a year later, we've got House of Frankenstein. So here we bring together not only the Wolfman's back, not only is Frankenstein back, or the Frankenstein monster back, you've got Dracula back, this time played by John Carradine. Pretty well, I might add. John Carradine, I think, adds a nice kind of almost like English gentleman-y flair to the role, which I think is kind of different. It looks different. He acts a little bit different. And here you've got Boris Karloff actually playing Edward Neiman, the mad scientist. You also have, I'm drawing a blank on his name, playing the hunchback assistant to Professor Neiman, Dr. Neiman, Karloff's character. We've got, I'm drawing a complete blank on his name. He's, hold on, I'll tell you in a second, only because I need to know now. J. Carroll Naish, okay, another popular actor from the time, not necessarily a horror actor, but he plays the hunchback assistant, okay, to Dr. Neiman. And you've got Glenn Strange playing a Frankenstein monster in this film. So another big mashup here. You don't really get any big battles here. Pretty decent film, though. You know, building up to another climax where it looks like, you know, everybody's dead. But then they come back again a year later for House of Dracula. Okay, so in House of Dracula, all the monsters are miraculously still alive. And here you've got Dracula, both Dracula and Lawrence Talbot, who both should be dead from the previous film, now go seeking out the help of a scientist played by Oswald Stevens as someone who can, and separately they both seek him out. Dracula to have him help cure his vampirism, and Lawrence Talbot to help him cure his werewolfism. Okay, and then along the way they happen to find the still alive buried in like the quicksand, which is run down through the underground into this cliff or whatever, the Frankenstein monster, who's still alive but really in a weakened state, right? So there you have, so then you have all this craziness which ensues from there, right? So, and again, at the end of the film, probably because I'm sure most people have seen it, you know, at the end of the film, you got Dracula dies again, you got the Frankenstein monster dies again, you got Lawrence Talbot seemingly cured of his werewolfism, right? So maybe the light, you know, great ending for him, right? Larry Talbot can finally, hopefully, live in peace without his werewolf disease, right? But then before you know it, in 1948, we've got yet another kind of sequel. This one kind of a comedy horror sequel. So Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein, which probably is the film that I've seen more times in my life than any other movie. And I just watched it again last night. I watch it every year. I probably watched it every year in my entire life, and never gets old. Never gets old. And so here you've got, you know, we're throwing all the three monsters. Here you've got Bela Lugosi playing Dracula for the first time since, you know, officially since the first Dracula film. He's played similar vampire role, not called Dracula, in a couple other films. You've got Glenn Strange again performing as the Frankenstein monster, and of course Lon Chaney Jr. as Lawrence Talbot, the Wolfman. Okay, but here he still has his werewolfism. So again, the one crazy thing about all these Universal movies, not a lot of continuity from film to film to film. Here, completely none. So now all of a sudden, now you have all three of the monsters are still alive. Okay, but now you got Lugosi as Dracula again. And the whole premise is now that Dracula and the monster have both been shipped from Europe to America, okay? Because apparently Dracula came up with this plan to bring the monster to America, and he'd have a better chance of reviving him, okay, to do his bidding. What that bidding really is, we don't really know. And somehow Talbot is following them from Europe to America to put a stop to everything that's going on. Okay, so if you go back to the previous films, Talbot as the Wolfman and the Frankenstein monster kind of got along okay after their kind of battle there. But there was somewhat of a kinship between Talbot and the monster until he turns into the werewolf, obviously, the Wolfman. And Dracula never really interacted with either of those two in any of the previous films. But now all of a sudden, Dracula is like, you know, taking the monster under his wing, and the Wolfman is his like mortal, and they're like mortal enemies. So somehow, Abbott and Costello, okay, Chick and Wilbur, all right, Chick Young and Wilbur Gray, who are two like baggage handlers at the local baggage place, they somehow get thrown into this whole story, and lots of madness ensues. Tons of, great lines. Let me tell you, Mr. Chick Young, when I saw what I saw when I saw it, you better believe me that I saw it. Okay, great line from that film. There's so many really great scenes, and you know what? Let's give Lugosi and Chaney, and especially those two, and even Strange to an extent, a lot of credit for being their serious, characters amidst this, total slapstick comedy of a film. And lots of great acting, a lot of great scenes, and it's just, it's funny, it's got some chills, which it's good, and the music is absolutely terrific during it. So, and I also did not want to forget one other film here in this series, which is The She-Wolf of London, okay, which was made in 1945, and that's kind of like a weird. It's really, there's nothing werewolf about it other than it's all implied, and actually I won't give too much of it away, but it's all how, the premise of this whole film is you have this main character played by June Lockhart, which was the mother character in the Lost in Space TV show, and she plays a young woman who thinks that she's turning into some kind of creature and killing people and all that kind of stuff, and doesn't actually turn out like it sounds. Really, the movie has nothing to do with werewolves at all. It's, like I said, it's more like an implied thing. But a decent enough little film, but really kind of doesn't belong in this set, but because it's got wolf in the title, I guess. But this is the Universal Blu-ray set, which comes in the big set, which has all 31 of their monster films. Well worth getting. The quality is absolutely terrific. If you have like a really high quality HD TV or even a 4K TV and a nice Blu-ray system, these look and sound fantastic. I've never seen these films better. So, I'm a big fan. Like I said, if you've been watching The Monsters Den, I'm a big fan of werewolf films, but it always all comes back to the original Universal films. Lawrence Talbot, Lon Chaney Jr., he's my werewolf, right? For me, he's always been the Wolfman. He will forever be known as the Wolfman. And growing up as a kid, nothing better for me, and I still can watch all these films and really enjoy them. As some of them, they might be a little hokey here and there. Some of the plots just are a little puzzling, but still the best werewolf films. I still say the granddaddy of all werewolf films is American Werewolf in London. That will always be kind of like, that's the high gold standard. But man, you got to love the Wolfman and all the Universal sequels. Just absolutely love them. And there you have it. So this is on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, of course, we're here on YouTube all the damn time. We've got more horror stuff coming up here on the Monsters Den. Chris Allen and I will be getting back together sometime this week to do another show on 80s horror. So like 80s, like Supernatural or that sort of thing. So we'll be tackling the 1980s once again. And I know Rich Catino and I will also be doing another show together on the Monsters Den, so stay tuned for that. And of course, we got tons more music stuff happening here, so you don't want to miss any of it. We'll see you all real soon. Take care. Bye-bye.